And now I present to you Dianna Wilusz. Dianna, CEO and founder of the Pendolino Group, is passionate about creating transformative experiences in businesses and with teams. She passionately infuses more than 25 years of operations, human resources, and change management experience into every client project, including for-profit, not-for-profit, and educational institutions. She believes that the capacity to create powerful changes resides within each of us, and she is committed to the exchange of best practices and the co-creation of the next generation of collaborative innovation, community transformation, and business results. Dianna is here to present Cracking the Code, the elusive nature of culture, which qualifies for business credit.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you, and it's great to be back here today. And how many of you have been here for all 3 days of the conference? Whoa, sweet. I don't think there's a single hand sticking out. That was nice. All right. So today we are talking about the elusive nature of culture, cracking that code. And as I was kind of preparing for today, the way the process works, in case you're not aware, the way the process works is that they put a call out for speakers about 6 months in advance. And then they put another call out for speakers about 3 months in advance. And they're like, are you sure? You want to present? You want to be part of this conversation? Which many of you who know me know that I'm absolutely passionate about the world of human resources, passionate about the world of business, and to think of myself and our team at the Pendolino Group as business people first who happen to know a lot about HR. Right? Which is what I see every single one of you being as well, all right? You're business people, and part of what you are out exploring is how do we engage people into the organization? How do we optimize the way that people are showing up, create teams that are innovative, right? What are some of the other things? What are you out to create? I'll give you probably right on the spot. Right now, she's out to create more. Right? I mean, we are all out to create important things for our teams and for our organizations and for our clients. And for, how many of you are consultants in the room? Good. Fewer hands? Okay. How many of you are in-house HR? Beautiful. How many of you are here for the free coffee? Excellent. Okay. So we are out to discover and to create more about this elusive thing called culture, okay? And this has been a conversation that's been going on for ages, right? From the point in time when we were first beginning to explore having a world or a global labor market back in the 90s. We were starting to explore the fact that we would have people moving from other countries into the U.S., or we'd have people from the U.S. going to other countries, or we would have someone from California going to a place like Tennessee or Louisiana, right? Even within our own country, having culture pieces, or we would have someone moving from a traditional kind of culture, an organization that maybe had been around since the 70s or 80s, and they were moving into high tech, or they were moving into life sciences, right? So the culture differences that we would face with people coming together, right? And how do we figure out what that is, right? So as we were talking, we were chatting a little bit earlier, when you go into a new organization, one of the first things that you probably want to figure out is how does work get done around here, right? It all looks good if I'm going through the interview process, but now I'm here, right? What is the culture? And it's not until often we get into the organization, we become a part of the organization, that we actually start to discover what the true culture is, right? So part of what we're going to be creating today is a conversation and collaboratively exploring what is culture, right? So I'm honored to actually have 3 other people here with me. And for those of you who, might have been saying, hey, I didn't see that when I was reading the brief for this session, all right, didn't see that one coming, all right, that's a little bit of the culture that we're creating is the surprise factor, all right? So I've got 3 folks that are here. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about their background as we kind of open it up for panel conversations in a few moments. But just to give you a quick little snippet of who these individuals are and why I'm incredibly excited to have them with us here in this conversation. So we have a multi-time CEO sitting with us, someone who is chairman of the board sitting with us. We have someone who has, I know this may be an insult, is from Australia. We have someone here from New Zealand, all right. We have someone here from Singapore. We have someone here from life sciences. Now, these are only 3 individuals. We also have someone here who triple majored, I learned today, this morning, triple majored from Santa Clara University, which is no small feat in and of itself, okay? So that gives you a little insight, a little window into the kinds of things that will influence their perspective, okay? And I want that to open up for you that exploration of the kinds of windows that are there for you to be opened as you're exploring the culture inside your team, inside your organization, inside your company, inside the geography, the community that it exists in. And in most of your cases, I would imagine the many cultures, the many geographies that exist for your organization. Okay? So the way things go, as you know, if you've been here before, if we've had a chance to talk before, you know I like to mix it up, right? And so we're going to be doing what I call the little porpoise dives. I've got some context. It will be, I'll call it, albeit generic. How many of you are in like a HR manager, director, VP level, senior HR? Yeah, beautiful. So some of what, and much of what I'm going to share with you, you will have seen before, okay? Now, the difference is going to be what's new that we're bringing to the table in terms of perspective, being able to assess your organization, get insights into your organization, and the conversation that's going to take place, all right? Are you game for that? Awesome, okay. So let me give you a little bit of context here. We're going to dive right on it. So first of all, why culture matters. All right. So as you saw, as you were contemplating where to spend your morning this morning, and thank you for choosing to be here with us in this conversation. Your perspective as leaders is so critically important. And I believe passionately that the role of senior leadership in HR is one of the most important roles for every single one of our businesses, every single one of our organizations. We have license to thread across the entire organization, and we influence the entire organization. That's how strongly I believe in this. So one of the things that I want you to take away is that 78% of the companies are reporting, and this was a survey that was done by our team, 78% of the companies that reported said that culture initiatives either fail to take root or result in unintended consequences, negative consequences. We were talking over lunch or breakfast this morning. I'll give you a sense of this. One of the conversations we had over at breakfast was, we have a whole generation that's coming up into the work environment now and has been in the work environment for a while. And what they know about interaction in the organization quite frequently is this: headphones on, head down. Right? Have you seen it? Yeah. And why do they do that? So we peel it back. Often what we hear is that they're doing it because there's so much other noise going on around them. Right? Now, flashback to 10 years ago. And the conversation was about the power of creating an open work environment, right? We're going to do away with offices, we're going to do away with cubicles, we're going to create like open tables, come sit anywhere you want, right? Sounds good, right? What's one of the unintended consequences? Boom. The noise, right? So it's little things like that. Now, we learn, we evolve, and we're starting to see more of a balance starting to happen, right? Where there are quiet spaces you can go to, there's open space. So we're starting to get that balance, right? Hey, Geoff, I'm so glad you made it. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. We saw each other in the parking lot this morning as I drove up in my little purple VW bug.
Very vintage.
Very vintage, very cool. Thank you. So this is one of the things to keep an eye out for, right? Are the unintended consequences, some of those things. Now, who could have predicted that? Probably nobody. Okay. But these are some of the pieces that continue to be in front of us as we think about how we may be attempting to engineer culture. Okay? And there's some danger in attempts to engineer culture. Right? So we want to take this little tidbit away. Now, also, the fact of the matter is that we project our own values and expectations on the notion of culture. Right? So another conversation that John and I were having, we were talking about individuals that are out there studying culture. Okay, or individuals that are evaluating what's going on. And one of the things for you to always take away, keep present, is that you will be bringing your own perspective, your own filters into that evaluation. For example, me personally, I really don't like having to hunt and peck for a desk to work at every day. Right? So as an HR person, I would probably be the last person to be saying, hey, we have to create an open desk for everybody to sit at, right? So you want to be thinking about what are your own perspectives that you're bringing to this, right? And we'll get to explore that in our conversation as we're talking about the panel, getting their insight. Okay? So we're going to ask you, right, a little bit about what's your culture like. If you were to summarize it in one word, for example, how would that be? And then how is your interpretation of that culture affected by your own filter, right? One of the assessment tools that I want to expose you to is from Smart Leader Apps. And Smart Leader Apps gives you the unique ability to be able to pulse your organization and pulse it in such a way that you can also start to see what are the individual's unique filters that they are responding to, that are at play as they are giving you input. Okay? So we're going to explore that tool a little bit as well, as something for you to get some exposure to, how you can pulse the organization and filter out the impact of individuals' own biases, right? Okay, so we want to keep that in mind, and ultimately, we are all about, in this session right now, for the next hour, we are all about exploring the fact that culture is multifaceted, multifarious, and multiform. So, hence the reason I'm not going to stand up here and preach to the choir, so to speak, about culture. Right? We're going to explore it. Now, here's how things will flow. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the classic definition around culture. We'll have the opportunity to explore culture in context. We've got our panel perspective, and I'll give you a little more background on who they are. All right? And then we're going to open it up. And we want to explore this together. This is a co-creation. So intentionally, as I was thinking about how we create the most value for your time spent here today, for you to be able to walk out of here really with some key tangible things, and also having explored this topic around culture, perhaps in a way that you never have before, the thing that came to mind for me, the one word that came to mind for me, the culture I want to create in here with us, is a culture of collaboration. Okay? Are you in it? Awesome. Okay. Are you a little nervous about it? All right. So that's what we're going to create. So we're going to have an opportunity to engage around that, and then we'll have, what do we do next? What are some key takeaways, little things you can do around that as well. All right. Got a couple of giveaways too. It's not always really fun. Why not? All right. So we'll just start out with the Dilbert. Why not? I'll give you a moment to read this one. Yeah. Our greatest strength is our company culture. How many times have you heard that? What's our company culture? Okay, look at this. We're fiercely competitive. hide it because we're also honest. Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to be digging into is that culture fundamentally gets defined or gets evidence through behaviors that we see. Not necessarily the words that we place on it, right? So as you're starting to think about what is culture and what is our culture, one of the first spots to look is, what are the behaviors? What are you observing people do? And also, what are you starting to observe as being elicited for yourself in that environment? Okay? Because we are all social creatures, right? Humans are social creatures. That was a whole other session, right? So we all, when we come into an environment, without even consciously realizing it, we start assessing. All right, she looks like she has a friendly face. All right, okay. He looks pretty cool. All right, let me adjust it. Yeah. Right? So we start doing that subconsciously. Right? Behaviorally, what you observe in me, for example, is I'm like, safety. Okay? She looks safe, right? She is safe, right? We can get along, okay? You know, I'm kind of curious. I'm steering clear from you. Right, so we start observing those patterns, okay? And so that's part of what starts to emerge. Think of the word culture. We were talking about this at breakfast as well. Think of the word culture. The first 4 letters of culture are what? Yeah. Right? So I'm going to find someone who's familiar, right? I'm going to test, do we have some of the same beliefs, okay? I'm going to say, oh, it's safe, I can hang out here. The rest of you, not so sure, right? But we might invite you in, okay? So this is some of the subtlety that's at play, right? And I think it's fascinating, really fascinating. Now, this is also part of the reason that we cannot engineer culture, right? This is always going on. In fact, you probably have different cultures if you're at work, if you're at home, if you're out volunteering in the community, if you're doing something like this. There are different cultures at play. And you're continually looking for how they adapt, how they fit in. Now, we bring a bunch of people together. We want them to work together. We want them to have a shared vision, right? We want to have a shared mission. We want to have shared values, right? Who are we, right? And many of you, I'm sure, well, it's just a show of hands. How many of you, when you're interviewing to bring people onto the team, how many of you interview for culture fit? Yeah, there you go. Okay? So you're going for culture fit. Nothing wrong with the approach. In fact, it's an important filter, right? Hire for culture, train for skill, right? It's an important practice when you keep in mind that the individuals who are also interviewing for culture fit will come with their own perspective. Okay? 2 great individuals, come to you again. 2 great individuals would probably be perfect for our team. Okay? And I'm interviewing, I align and feel more comfortable here. Okay? So when you're interviewing for culture fit, also be sure you're mixing up who's doing the interviewing, right? So you kind of debug that aspect, right? So I just planned that with you. So let's dig in. What is culture? So in the widest context, culture is a word that encompasses the values, customs, traditions, rituals, symbolisms, and social behavior. Nice big, broad, generic definition of culture, okay? That's truly how we notice it. It encompasses, and these are the types of words you'll hear, or subtleties of behavior that you'll see, the way we do things around here. Okay? It also encompasses what's acceptable in behavior and style. Okay? So from that standpoint, let me give you an example of an organization. There was a team that was interviewing a candidate. Now this was a very entrepreneurial, innovative organization. Okay? They were interviewing a new candidate, and the candidate, of course, had been trained on how to interview. Right out of college, had been trained on how to interview. Told, this is what you should wear to your first interview, because first impressions are what? Everything, right? So he shows up, he's got a suit, he's got a tie on, he's all dressed to the nines, polished shoes, the whole 9 yards, right? He walks in, the team that's interviewing him, khakis, flip-flops, t-shirts, whole 9 yards. That's their culture, right? Very familial, if you will, right? So what does this person do? They're coming back, they get hired, they're coming back for their first day of work. What do? What do you think?
Show up in khakis.
Show up in khakis, show up in tennis shoes, right? They want to fit in, right? Now, what do you think the team did? This is an entrepreneurial, innovative, fun-loving team. What do you think they did? Suits, right? Right in line with their culture. Yeah, okay? So, so you're thinking, this poor guy's probably wondering, he was probably frightened. Yes, I'm quite frightened. Oh God, what did I do? Right? Totally misread it, right? Yeah, so this is some of the fun stuff. I get passionate in this world of culture, okay? And again, one of the things that I want to invite you to do as we're talking with our panel here is to explore what are some of the ways that you can leverage the existing culture that you have, right? Really leverage it to your benefit as an organization, right? And thinking about that, create that conversation for your teams. Because culture encompasses unwritten rules, right? And if done wrong, right, it can actually result in exile. Okay? Now, sometimes that shows up in terms of passive-aggressive behavior. Sometimes it shows up in terms of a toxic environment, right? We've got some really heavy words, right? We've got people being ostracized, minimalized, right? Bullied, right? So it's heavy stuff, right? So one of the things that's important is you being able to quickly assess and diagnose what is the real culture here, the real culture. Not necessarily those 1 or 2 individuals that are bullies or creating toxicity, those types of things, right? So we also want to be careful not to generalize and kind of throw out the whole culture as a view, okay? So I want to keep this in mind. Now, let's take it to an organization culture, because that's why we're all here, the organization context. So from this standpoint, it is used loosely and often relates to a culture of engagement, fear, collaboration, toxic, bullying, innovative. We can distill it all down to 1 word or 2 words, right? What was the definition I gave you of the culture before? Entrepreneurial, innovative, fun-loving, right? And immediately, all of you, each and every one of you are coming to this with your filter on that. Is that good or is that not good? Right? Does that align with what I believe is important in the work environment or not important? Okay, so number 1 takeaway, remove your own filters. Okay? Become cognizant of those. Right? Number 2 takeaway is when you start introducing initiatives, be cognitive. Am I attempting to engineer a culture here, which will not work? The engineering won't work. Right? Number 3 takeaway is to look downstream to the extent that you can to anticipate unintended consequences. Right? So think about those pieces, right? Now, cultures we create through collaboration, right? So from this standpoint, we're going to start creating this culture. What is it? Right? And get our panel involved in helping us define that. Okay, I've got a couple of initially prepared questions to field to them. And again, because you all know me, right, we're going to be getting your questions. We want to pepper this team here, this panel, with what's burning for you right now, okay? What's at hand for you right now? So we can take advantage of their wisdom and their insight, all right? So the 3 people that we've got sitting here, so we've got Geoff Lorigan, all right, who hails from Auckland, New Zealand. And Geoff, we've just got as our board chair and strategy pro. Okay? So he's going to be sharing with us from his perspective. Now, that's a pretty short title. He is with Smart Meter Apps. So he's also going to be able to get a little more insight into that tool set, which, by the way, at some point we're going to pass the hat around, the bucket around. If you're interested, we actually have 2 tabs that we're going to take. At least 3 of you, and depending on the size, we might actually go up to 5, maybe. That what we want to do is give you the opportunity to trial for free a team of up to 10 people in your organization on this platform. Okay. The exchange around that is that we want to hear what works for you, right? We want to hear how it works. But before you get too excited, you don't know anything about it. Don't be rushing up here with your cards just yet. Okay. All right. So a little bit about Geoff. So Geoff has had 3 corporate CEO roles. He's one of our multi-CEOs. He's held 3 university professional positions and has run over 100 senior leadership development programs himself. Programs spelled with MES at the end. All right. The Queen's English. All right. Geoff runs Leader Lab, that's designed and developed the comprehensive tool Smart Meter Apps and the suite of dashboards and OD tools. Right, so that's what we're going to explore a little bit with him. Also, extremely important, I want you to go deep with him in terms of what kind of thought leadership and what kind of exploration he's also done in the history behind culture. Okay? So we want to go deep on that. John, at the other end here. So John is currently he's the CEO of Institute for Strategic Leadership. How cool is that? Right. He also hails from Auckland and has a Brisbane background. I'm just putting it on you. Okay. So Australia, right? Okay. Because what would a conversation about culture be if we were all from San Francisco Bay Area? Here you go. It's clear. So he's the CEO of Institute for Strategic Leadership. He has a sister company also of Smart Meter Apps. So the tool set was actually designed and I'll say born from conversations around culture and leadership and solving that issue for us. He is also, he's held 2 CEO roles himself and has been the executive dean of a prominent business school. Right here. All right. Brenda Tan. Okay, so Brenda is, she's a contributing member of the Pendelino Group. More importantly, though, she's the Senior Director of Total Rewards for Aldentis Therapeutics, right here in our own backyard. And in an aspect of human resources that I firmly believe is one of the quickest ways that you can actually shift the culture, right? That which gets rewarded gets done, okay? So having been involved in those types of initiatives myself, I know that what you pay for, people will align to, okay? As much as they also say, hey, I'm rewarded by the relationship if I work with you, I'm rewarded by our relationship with you as my manager, right? So that influences how I behave. Okay? It absolutely wholly influences the culture of your organization. So we want to explore that with Brenda as well. Now, Brenda is also our degree from Santa Clara University. What were the degrees again? E-commerce, management information systems, and market research. Okay, nothing having to do with total rewards, and everything having to do with total rewards. Okay, so these are our 3 panelists. All right. So what I'd like to do is we're going to drop into some questions here. If that's good with you guys. Okay. So I'm going to prime the pump a little bit. We're going to drop into the question around culture, right? And what is it from a microcosm standpoint? As we're dropping down, we're really thinking about our businesses. Okay. It's here's the thing. It's easy to think about culture on a global scale. Okay. Yeah. He's from Brisbane. Got it. I know what those Brisbaneans are all about. All right. However, when we start working together in close proximity, even if we're working in a remote setting, distributed setting, we are in close proximity. We have Ideally, a shared vision, a shared mission. There's something that we're out to create together, right? So from that standpoint, now I am talking about culture at a micronismic level. That might be a new word. Right? Yeah. So now we're talking at that level of close proximity. That's when clashes can happen. Okay? So we want to be looking at this in terms of our organizations and the cultures within our organizations and see what they've got to say. All right? So let's get started. So first question for our panel is going to be, how do you classify culture? All right? And whoever would like to take this one first, go for it. How would you classify culture? Describe your culture. Tell us a little bit about your background, too.
Yeah, when we look at culture, I think it's important to think very much about the unit or the size of the unit that we are looking at. If we look at New Zealand as a country, for instance, we have an overarching Kiwi culture, I guess. But the difference between the culture of Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, and Lorigan is extremely different. People, as you move down the country, find live there, and I've had the opportunity to live in these different places. It's like really like off a different planet. So if you think about within a company and an organisation, what I have discovered, if you like, working with senior leaders in business over the last 18 years, is that cultures vary very much from team to team, not even department to department. An example of this was one of our young interns is now working in London. He worked for Price Waterhouse. He's in charge of, or he's responsible for Brexit, being the expert on Brexit in LIBOR, which is the London International Banking Rate, interbanking rate. Now, he said in Price Waterhouse, the culture there, he's in a squad of about 30. He's an extrovert, sociable character, but he said, you don't even get up and talk to the person, just over at the next desk. That's not the culture. The culture is you send one another an email. And he came back to our little legal lab with a dozen people in it, which was 50-50 male and female, 3 from the psychologists from the UK, a programmer from China, 1 from India, 1 from Nepal, 1 young person from France, a couple of New Zealanders, etc., etc. Highly collaborative, mix of gender, mix of introverts and extroverts, and 4 major personality types. So if you look at all of that, that is a culture of collaboration. It's fast, it's agile. And he said, my God, he said, compare this to our culture in that room with these 30 experts. It's just like another planet.
Yeah.
So I think when we talk about culture, I've come to learn that culture in an organisation really varies from team to team. And how each team actually sees it's interesting as well, because we've developed our own tools to get anonymous feedback. One little example is a team, 60% of the people, or 6 out of 10 people are engaged, and highly engaged, both hands up in the air. 3 of them are ambivalent, and 1 of them is disengaged. Now this is a top team. This is a top team of a large organisation. CEO has no idea that there's 1 that's disengaged, or even that there's 2 or 3 that are ambivalent. And when you dig in and do the analytics, you'll find that while the engaged people think that it's a culture of high performance, the one that's disengaged sees this as a culture of fear. This one, if you trace through the narrative, you'll find will say, this is like a wolf pack. And it's great if you're on the inside of the wolf pack, but if you're on the outside of the wolf pack, it's not a very nice place to be. Now, these are, what we've been doing is working with the top team. This particular case is a company with 12,000 employees, and it has $2 billion worth of revenue. This is the top team. The CEO has no idea that that is one team. Then he says, well, how come we've been like this? How come you've never told me this before? The person said, I'm that red character. I'm the one who's unhappy. I'm the one who's scoring 1 out of 7 or stage. And the CEO says, well, how come we didn't mention this before? And he says, well, our culture is every time we have a meeting, it's on projects. It's on how do we look at our budgets, it's on capital expenditure. We've never really ever had a conversation around our culture or how we feel. We've never had this agenda item, so I've never put the hand up.
There we go.
So this isn't just one example, Dianna. This is actually what we've discovered, to our great surprise, is that if it's like this at the very top of the organisation, imagine what it feels like when you're down a bit further or out a bit further. So this is the sort of aspect of culture, and it varies team by team.
Team by team, right? So a couple of takeaways, right, that I heard out of that. One, is culture part of the topic, part of your agenda for conversation, right? And culture often is one of those agenda items that is, when it does come up, it kind of comes up as, sometimes it's taboo, right? Ew, it's squishy, right? Sometimes it has that kind of weird feel around it, right? So we're going to talk about quantifying culture as well. And then, but take that away. Is it part of your leadership agenda, your leadership discussion agenda, when you're talking about operational aspects? Culture is the glue that holds the organization together or breaks the organization apart, fragments it, right? So let's talk about, John, maybe you could answer this question. What are some of the different types of cultures that you've observed?
Well, I do most of my work with CEOs, and I'd just like to draw on something you mentioned, Dianna, through whose lens, and Geoff, in terms of you're seeing that culture is different by team, or who do you regard as your team? So for a CEO, they will see their senior executive as their team. But they'll often, and most often, describe when I'm speaking to them through the behaviours they observe rather than naming the culture per se, they'll be describing a siloed culture. So they'll be observing things that I've got a good group of individuals that are talented in their own right, their business unit or function is operating in itself extremely well. But we're not a team. We don't have necessarily a culture, or if we do have one, from the description of behaviours, it suggests it's a siloed culture. That's very common through a CEO's lens. If you ask the individuals, firstly, if you ask them who's their team, they'll sheepishly kind of look down. Because actually, if they were honest, they'd say, well, actually, my team's not this executive team. My team, the one I lead. And they'll define the culture through their lens for their team. They probably really haven't thought much about how this culture of this executive team works. And if they did, they'd look at it through a lens of how it affects me and my team.
Yes.
So some quite like that. If you're the executive general manager of a strategic business unit, you'd be pretty happy with this siloed culture, actually.
Yeah.
But so that's one way that you see different types of culture revealing themselves. And the culture that they would see is through their lens, often what they'd like to think their culture is, rather than what it necessarily is, because if you then ask those on their team, they may have a different view through their own lens. And Geoff talked of high performing and fear, there's a fine line, depending on what side of that line you are. So one of the things, though, from a CEO perspective, then looking at the issue of culture, is that first, I look at culture differently than my team. And secondly, I ask the question, so how is that impacting organisational performance? because if that executive team were all the members viewed that as their team, and they came to the table not to represent their function or their own cultural lens, but they were there with an organisational lens on, how much better would those units add value to each other and as a whole lead to group performance being overall high performing and performing better. So we do a lot of work to, in a sense, flip the lens of the members of those executive teams to be very much focused on the organisation as a whole, be prepared to give up resource, be prepared to prioritise capital investment in other areas because for the group that is better. And then when they go back to their own teams, win, lose or draw, they are representing the organisational view. That's the optimum through a CEO lens. And as members of that team are challenged and go through the process of realisation that actually we'd all be better off if we had that lens too. And in fact, this is my team, and behaviourally I now understand what that means. And there's a commitment to that, then the organisational performance goes like a rocket.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right? So I know many of us are striving to create that kind of organization where people are truly, they have that shared vision, right? They're in it for the whole game, and that we have an environment where you're facing a challenge, I'm here to help you be successful in your role, and vice versa, because we have a bigger objective that we're going after, right? So from that perspective, Brenda, they're at Aldentis, right? And kind of speaking from the perspective of, how do you create? What are some of the things that you create? You'll recognize, I think we've answered this question. Culture is not homogeneous throughout the organization, right? I mean, we have pockets that have a native culture in and of themselves, almost by nature of the type of work that they do, the type of people that they draw. So for a dentist, I think you've got a very powerful story in terms of how that unified culture is emerging.
So a dentist is a new company. We're in gene therapy. That's very new, even here in the United States. So we started out last year defining our culture in words, and we put it together very clearly for everyone.
Yep. You pull the mic a little closer.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. So we started out last year to define our culture in paper. And what we did was a poll of all employees. And we came up with very simple rules. There are only three. One of them is be bold, and Audentis in Latin, bold. And that's also our stock price kicker. And we defined what being bold is. Being bold means finding a way. And the second cultural value is care deeply. Care deeply for our patients. We're developing a cure for our patients in gene therapy, in rare diseases. So we really care deeply about our patients, number one, our team, number two, and then our company, number three. We actually prioritize all of that, even in total reward. So then the third cultural value is, and this is something that I think a lot of millennials will align with, is #GFB. Now, how many of you know what GFB means?
One.
All right, so we've tried to make it politically correct, so we called it Get Stuff Done. I think all of you know what that means. And all of us have this little sticker on our desk that says #GFB. So we prioritize doing, actions, getting things done. So when we do rewards and when we plan our performance review, all those three things matter. When I report it to our leaders, we look at every single leader and how have they been performing according to these three values. Are they getting things done? Are they finding a way? Are they actually caring deeply about the team, the patients, and the company? So what we've found, and we cut this in several ways. So I'm a geek by nature. I love data. In more ways than one. We cut the company and the reward schedule for base salary, bonus, equity. We actually look at it by gender, by tenure, by age, by race, by ethnicity. And we actually do it by leader. And we review how they've been doing. And the fascinating thing is, for our company this year, this is our first year looking at this data, everyone aligns with the value. And that's really, really a good thing. Because what we found in getting our cultural values on paper, and we have them in little jigsaw puzzles, basically on every single person's desk, is that we are living our values. And it's a new company, so things get done very, very fast. So people who can't deal with change get out really quickly. And we are unashamed to say that. So if you're willing to be unashamed, there's a lot of badass words when our leaders talk. And it's proud. They're proud of what the company has achieved. So that's part of it for us.
Yeah. So you're hearing a lot about also the alignment, right? So the conversation that has taken place with the leadership of the organization and with the organization as a whole around what are our values. And notice how the values have a very intentional purpose to them, right? Hashtag GSD, right? Right? Getting stuff done, right? There's a very intentional, caring deeply, right? Caring deeply for our patients, caring deeply for each other, caring deeply for what we're about, right? So there's a very intentional meaning behind each of those values that has been developed and now is being integrated in. And so when the conversation is taking place around culture, it's a conversation of how are we aligning to that? How do our programs align to that and reinforce and encourage it, right? And I love what you said about bold, be bold, right? I mean, primate, it's the ticker symbol, right? I mean, that's a statement out in the world. And it's also a statement in the way it was defined, something else that I've heard, right? The fact that it is about boldly taking action, right? Being fierce and bold about how we work together as a team and being unabashed when there are cases, individuals where they're just, they're not fitting. That's okay. Nothing wrong, right? So being unabashed about that, right? So that all starts with, back to our conversation, having it be a conversation, right? And a thoughtful one, okay? So in order to get there, we've heard these things before, right? As a leader, leaders set the tone for the entire organization, communicate your vision, right? And having that conversation as a leadership team, as John was describing it, about the idea of turning the lens in on ourselves as a leadership team, right? Each one of you are in these really powerful positions with a seat at the table, so to speak, right? Facilitating that conversation, right? Turning the lens. Do we see ourselves as a team boldly working together to generate this vision? And, I mean, this is almost heresy, right? Am I willing to give up resources from my team to help your team be successful, right? So challenging yourself, how are even your financial systems wired in such a way that they may be creating, again, these segments? Now, I know these are not easy conversations. It's 28 years in the corporate world, as Geoff knows. And I know that these are conversations that take time, they take patience, right? And from that standpoint, when we can start to draw the line or draw the continuity to be able to say, hey, you know what, leaders shape our culture. Culture engages staff. Staff engage our customers. They're there on the front line in many cases, or they're generating the products that our customers are buying. Customers drive revenue. Revenue drives financial performance. People performance and financial performance absolutely drives the enterprise value. When we make that line, draw that out for people to see it, I would bet that there's no one in your leadership team who could argue with that thread. Okay. So this is a very powerful one. And imagine if you're able to actually be having the conversation holistically with them. Okay? Right? Almost as if you've got your, who are these Tesla owners? I have a bug. 71 purple bug. It's great. Very retro, very cool. Yeah. I pulled out from this very handsome gentleman who was waving at me this morning, Geoff. Yeah. Okay, side story. I have to admit, Saturday I was driving through the city. It was sunshiny, right? And we'd had like 3 weeks of rain. It's sunshiny out, you know, the blue sky's starting to poke out. I'm in my little bug, driving through the city, and I tell you, every single person I saw was just like, beep, 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 beep. And I was waving out the window, and I'm thinking, wow, okay, well, I don't know who it was, but it felt good, right? Creating culture, right? So imagine now for your organization, you can actually have a holistic conversation, okay? So from that standpoint, the holistic nature of the conversation, what I'd love to hear, I've got a couple more questions for our panel here. So what I'd love to hear is, from your perspective, you're looking holistically here, who and what drives culture? Who and what drives team culture? Okay, Geoff, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, I think the greatest influence over culture is actually the team leader, team by team, leader by leader. And it's, you know, it starts off to a large extent by the people that you choose to be within this team. And you talked about the selection process, Dianna. In our particular case, in our legal lab, you know, one person could destroy the culture. And sometimes the people who destroy it the fastest are the people who are highly capable but have the wrong values. Because the ones who are highly capable tend to have a lot of informal power and influence behind the scenes. One of the things we do is when we take someone new on, we get a representative of team members, 3 or 4, to be part of the sort of interview process. Now, of course, we don't interview people who don't have the talents in the first place, but when they do have the talent, this group of 4 people want to be involved in how they're going to fit with us, how will they fit with our culture. And we're not looking for clones either. So we love diversity, but we do know that if the team goes totally introvert, for example, there won't be much energy in the room. There won't be much interaction. So we tend to put people who are introverted into more detailed research jobs. We tend to put people who are more extrovert connecting with the clients and connecting as collaborators, dealing with our coaches and clients.
Right.
So I think the team leader, first of all, choosing the process of choosing the people, role modeling the sort of behaviour. You know, in my case, I encourage the introverts that are the programmers, you know, why don't you guys get together regularly once a week? I'd love to see it. That you're sharing your knowledge, because you've individually got so much knowledge to share, but they typically like to work independently. So I think the leader has a role around role modeling, you know, having stand-up meetings where you share the successes, what's priorities. So it's a full-time leadership job to create the culture. It's not a sort of passive thing that just creates itself, and you can get a virus in there very quickly. You know, one new person, if you're not careful, can change the whole culture, and you have to work to deal with that.
Yeah. You know, you actually started to answer our second question. You know, who are the culture contaminants, right? I mean, it can take.
Well, these are the ones, you know, the ones who are highly capable, but you know, wanting to have influence and power from behind and all sorts of things. You can feel it very quickly. in our case, for instance, they sit, dozens of them sit around a high table, have lunch, they laugh, they talk about how they made their lunch the night before. You know, these are young people. It's amazing what they talk about. And I stand back not to influence the culture and, you know, let them get on with having some fun and having some laughs and so on. But, for example, you know, we have 3 young ones who are psychologists. They come from the UK, from University, which is where I recruit them from because they're talented, they've got great values, and wonderful people. I don't know why they seem to all go there. But in the past, I've had 1 male and 2 females. You know, it's just the way that it's been. This time we ended up with 3, and they're not all from the same year. One's been with us for 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. And when this new one came, highly talented, extremely talented, extrovert and so on, the minute she came, that group of 3 people go away and have lunch down the road separately.
Yep.
And, you know, so the rest of the guys are sitting there, and that started to change the culture straight away. So as the leader, you know, I have a bit of a chat with them about, you know, do you realise the impact that this is having? So it needs to be proactively worked on. Next time when I recruit one, I'll have a male because it's not, I have a 50-50, but it's really important that I don't have little cliques or cults. That we try and keep up what's been really successful as a collaborative thing. All of these people are lovely, they're all clever, but there is an element of leadership required and intelligence to make sure that the culture is a really positive, collaborative one without conflict.
Yeah, you know, one of the pieces that I'm taking away from what you're sharing with us, Geoff, is that culture has to be managed and is nurtured proactively. Right? Left to its own devices, we can very easily end up with a not so good culture, right? We're quick to go away. And we can sit here in the room, we can sit, we can talk. Is anyone here? Or you might not raise your hand. Right? I mean, we can, you know, there are many examples out there. There are many examples out there that we hold as being those clinical examples of culture, and others that we hold as being those evidence of what not to do, right? And when you start to distill it down, one of the things that you will see and you take on, and I think you highlighted it beautifully, Geoff, is this nuance of creating a culture from day one, right? Whether it happens to be that the company is 15, 20, 30 years old, or literally has just signed the corporate docs day one, creating a culture from this moment forward is an active opportunity. It's something that you actively take on and intentionally develop and nurture, right? So this is a continual conversation. Back to what we were talking about, one of our takeaways is making sure that it's a conversation on the agenda. Right? Just as important as our conversation around operational elements. Right? Okay, so from that standpoint, I think we've touched on who are some of the influencers in the culture. There's certainly the leaders in the organization, organizational leaders, as well as the informal leaders, right? Those informal leaders, a perfect example for you, I remember back in the day, I was in the semiconductor industry for quite some time. We had one person on that team in that company. We were 32,000 employees at the time. And this person was rogue as rogue gets. Incredibly brilliant. And the things that were allowed to happen because of his brilliance, right? So those are little pieces that ultimately lead into your culture, right? How you manage that matters. Okay? So I won't tell you how the whole story ends. We've talked about that afterwards. Okay? So one of the things I do want to just plan with you, the app that you see here in the illustration, this is actually the Smart Leader app. It's a screenshot of the Smart Leader app. So it is this concept of how do we start thinking holistically about the organization, about the culture. Okay? So enter Dilbert. I'll give a moment to digest this one. All right. So I want to make sure my project plan is consistent with our company culture. But I don't know what our culture is. Maybe you can describe it. Maybe something about honesty? No, I would have noticed that by now. All right? So it is those things that you're observing in your organization. Now, how do we switch from going from it's a gut feel, I'll know culture when I see it, okay? How do I switch that to something quantifiable? Okay? Because truly it is about how can I quantify this conversation, right? I am sitting with my executive team. They care about the enterprise value. They care about what our shareholders are saying. They care about what our investors are saying. Okay? They care about sales. These are all very easily quantifiable elements. And as an HR organization, often we do face the challenge with that. Now, Brenda's given us a couple of great examples of how the programs that we align with our values help to provide some quantifiable evidence. And in many cases, that evidence comes around once a year, or maybe once every 6 months, and maybe once a quarter, depending on how frequently we do goal reviews and whatnot. Right? And how do we start to quantify things and pulse the organization so that we have a meaningful conversation with the organization, with the leadership of the organization, right, where the tone is set. Okay? So first of all, we know we need to properly diagnose the current organization, the current state, and we want to be able to leverage those measurable aspects, right? As Debbie said, you know, for those of you that are in the world of process management or process optimization, which all of us are, right? From that standpoint, Deming said, without data, you're just another person with an opinion, right? So you don't like how we get along here. Well, sometimes not quite that harsh or that direct, right? So how do we quantify things? Enter in a plethora of different tool sets that have been designed in a way for us to be able to go out and, you know, we have the smiley faces now, right? You know, we walk out of the room with that good meeting, smile, right? Was that a bad meeting? No, frowny face. How did we score this week, right? Okay. So these are like those little random pieces, I would describe that. Okay. Now, bring technology together with the plethora of research and knowledge that we also have around organization development and leadership development and team dynamics. Okay. Tools like Myers-Briggs, tools like DISC, tools like Emergy, those types of tools. And how do we quantify that? And how do we actually give ourselves a picture of the whole organization? And back to what I was talking about at the beginning, how do we also find ways to filter out those personal biases, right? So we can get as close a picture as possible, if you will, okay? So this is where we can start doing a little bit of a deep dive here around the perspective of the organization, not only from a team leader perspective and overall performance of the organization, but also from the standpoint of the CEO and the board, okay? And being able to bring the holistic picture together, right? Team effectiveness, for example, okay? So what I want to do is kind of give you, the sense of, if we could create a picture, imagine you're walking into your organization for the first time, and you've got this new lens on culture. You're able to create a picture very quickly of your organization in terms of, where do I have pockets of ambivalence? Where do I have a sense of people centricity? Okay? Can I actually drill down? And as Geoff was talking about, how we could actually be looking at the organization, recognizing that we have these micro cultures that exist, right? And that's fine. Remember, we don't want to engineer our culture. We want to leverage what exists, right? So from that standpoint, being able to drill in and actually be able to see, where are my ambivalent cases? Okay? Where are my strong engagers? Okay? And leveraging all of that. Okay? So from that standpoint, what I want to hear very quickly, it's got about 10 minutes, okay? So maybe like a quick, I'll give you 30 seconds, Geoff. Maybe about, all right? But I want to hear some questions from the group. Yeah, we're creating. So how do you know what your team members think about your culture at SLA? How do you know what they think?
People aren't likely to tell you stuff you don't want to hear. So the best way to do it is to have a process of anonymity where they can provide feedback in a way that it's collectivised. That I feel is the best way. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
You ask people how are they, and they say, yeah, pretty good. But when they do a weekly reflection, they'll say, Granddad died in the UK last week, been pretty off par. So you need a process really where they can give feedback honestly with anonymity.
With anonymity, yeah, right. So being able to give people that environment where they can say truly what's on their mind, right? And gather that in a constructive way, right? So bringing back some of those pieces that we were ultimately after in terms of creating engaging culture, collaborative, getting feedback, having input, right? Ultimately what we set out to create, okay? So ways of doing that. Now, question for you, John. What do you see as the link between culture, engagement, and team effectiveness?
Well, ultimately all three have a profound impact. One of the things around culture, and if you're looking at it particularly through an executive team effectiveness lens, is ensuring that whatever the culture is and whatever the desired and aspirational culture that they're working on is to be, that from an organisational effectiveness point of view and the effectiveness of that team leading the organisation is that it must be unified and each member must be committed to that unified culture that then cascades through their teams and through their teams ultimately as well. There's no question from our work that whatever those that report to an executive team, they see the executive team culture better than the executive team do. And they feel it intensely. So the other thing that I'd say is that if the executive team doesn't have a positive culture that's going to lead to organisational performance, and they're not engaged in achieving that organisational performance, they simply cannot expect those that report to them to also be engaged or have necessarily a positive culture.
Right.
So they're inextricably linked and contribute to each other in very sort of complex and nuanced ways.
Yes, co-creative again. So what I'd like to do is open this up. You've had an opportunity to hear a couple of questions in the front end. And I want to open it up for you to ask our panel. Yes.
So when Brenda spoke, she talked about values. So we have a conversation about values and culture, what to say, what's different, are your values your culture now, or how do you define your culture? So it's a little blurry there, and it's one.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So to repeat the question, so everyone can hear this. So the question that was just asked is, Brenda was talking about values, and it's kind of this blurry space between values and culture, right? And are values and culture the same thing, or how do they interrelate, right? And Brenda, why don't you go ahead? And while Brenda's doing that, I'm going to pass around this beautiful, okay? And I'd love to, if you're interested in taking advantage of having one of the, working with SLA, having one of your teams kind of doing that pulse, right? I mentioned our SLA team is offering free for up to 10 people on your team. Actually use their platform, do the sampling, and they're going to work directly with you. Okay. I'll pass this around. You put your business card if you're able to draw. Okay? Go ahead, Brenda.
Yeah. So here at Audentes, our CEO and our COO both see culture and values as interchangeable. We recognize that each team has different cultures and different values, but we also make it a priority to reinforce reinforce the values, try and actually let people know this is our culture, this is what we expect, these are the behaviors we want to see. So when we say be bold, every quarterly meeting, we actually have an exercise where we bring together the entire company, and that includes the manufacturing plant people. And HR actually engineers the teams that work together. So we will have someone in finance working with someone on the manufacturing floor, working with someone on quality, to actually work together to do projects together. Our upcoming all hands meeting will have patience, because we say care deeply. And your number one thing is patience. So every single all hands, we have patients coming by to show the progress of our drug development and the progress, and this is why we're in business here. And during those meetings, we also have exercises to find a way to be bold, to also #DSC. So we'll have groups working together. And we're unashamed about being competitive. So we have prizes in those group exercises. And we have everyone really working together. The next meeting will all be in survival. So we do want people to compete. We do want people to get stuff done in our quarterly all hands. And we reinforce that at every single quarter.
Yeah. So from that, it sounds like there's a real blend. I mean, they're inextricable, right? You define them and behaving to them. It's eliciting the culture from the organization that way. Yeah. Thank you. Great question. Yeah.
What are the characteristics of being bold? What are acceptable characteristics of being bold? And what are unacceptable characteristics?
Yeah, beautiful. What are acceptable characteristics of being bold, and what are unacceptable characteristics of being bold?
Yeah. So we define bold as finding a way. So, for example, the acceptable characteristics is if nobody has done this before and we're a gene therapy company, finding a way to get this done. What are unacceptable characteristics, and we've run through several exercises at every single quarterly all hands, are I will find a way, but I'm going to step on it. So we actually, during each all hands, the HR team is really busy on the floor looking at each team and how they work together. And we actually advise them during that time, I wouldn't do that if I were. So they hear it from us and we reinforce it. It's actually a fun exercise. We take time off from the manufacturing floor once a quarter to actually do this.
Wow. Yeah. So that boldness and being bold in terms of finding ways to get things done, and being bold in terms of communication around it too, right? So you and I working together and me being open to hearing, you say, hey, I'm not sure that would be the right way. Great, okay. How do we find ways to get things done? Okay. Yeah, great question. Thank you so much. What other questions do you have for our panel while we've got them here from the other side of the world as well as the other side of the bay? Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about my role in my company. I'm not at the senior level, and I'd like to get that conversation going, get some guidance around what is our value, what's our culture, what's our vision. So, any recommendations?
Great, yeah. So any recommendations, if you're not at the senior most level and you want to get that conversation going, any recommendations around that, Geoff?
I think a really practical thing that all team leaders can do, regardless of who they are in a hierarchy, is to work with their team to develop what we call a team charter, perhaps. And that is getting each person independently to put down what they think should be the values of our team. 6 values. And then in the next column over, what are the attitudes, and the next column, what are the behaviours. And then they share them collaboratively and talk about them. This is a process that could take about an hour. And then they document it in a way that's often creative, that they own and reflects their personality and so on. And within that, it also has what's our vision as a team, what's our purpose really clearly, why we're here and why does it matter, what is our values, our attitudes, and our behaviours. And then the discussion that comes after that is, how are we going to have honest, courageous conversations when there are charter breaches because of all that? And if you miss that part out, then you miss that big part. How will we, give a yellow card, if you like, if someone breaches the values and behaviours? What's the sort of conversation we're going to have? That process in itself is really key to creating the values, the attitudes and behaviours, dealing with them, and that impacts very much on culture.
Beautiful, thank you. Thank you for that question, too. And so, surprise, for the 3 people who ask questions, you will get a free assessment for a team up to 3, or up to 10 rather, up to 10. Okay. So even for you, you're starting an organization and bring together 10 people and do that template. Okay. Now what I'd like to do is we're like wrapping up time, obviously, and so what I'd like to do is go ahead and draw. Do I have somebody to volunteer to draw 3 more cards out of the bag here? You can go for it. Thank you. I appreciate it. So for these additional 3, now let's make sure that we get your information. If you didn't put a card up, we need your information. We all know which is your card. Okay. So 3 more people. So we have Darlene Forsythe. Just one. Okay. That's you. All right. Perfect. Okay. Beautiful. Elisa. All right. Great. Excellent. Thank you. And one more. One more. And we have Becky. Becky Anderson. Becky, where's Becky? Oh, did she? Okay. All right. So she knows she put her card in here, so she won't be surprised. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for